In the small village of Umaka, life was simple and often difficult. Families worked hard to make ends meet, and for many, the daily struggle was a way of life. Among the villagers was a man named Papa Odira, a farmer known for his gentle nature and love for his family. He lived in a modest hut with his wife, Mama Odira, and their only daughter, Odira. Odira was a beautiful 17-year-old girl with bright eyes and a warm smile that could light up the world. Her laughter echoed through the village, bringing joy to all who heard it. But despite her joyful spirit, life in Umaka was challenging. The family's small farm yielded just enough to survive, and there was never any surplus to save or invest. One evening, as the family gathered for their modest dinner, a visitor arrived at their doorstep. It was Chief Anioha, a very wealthy and influential man in the village. He was known for his vast lands and prosperous business ventures. He was also known for his desire to expand his family, having lost his wife recently, leaving him with 2 sons. Chief Anioha was a man of imposing stature, his presence commanding respect immediately. As he entered the humble hut, Papa Odira greeted him with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "Chief Anioha, welcome to our home," Papa Odira said, bowing slightly. "Thank you, Odira," Chief Anioha replied, his voice deep and authoritative. "I have come with a proposal that will benefit your family greatly." Papa Odira's heart quickened with anticipation. He knew that Chief Anioha was not a man to be taken lightly, and any proposal from him would mean a significant change in their fortunes. "May I ask what the proposal is, Chief?" Papa Odira inquired, trying to keep his voice steady. Chief Anioha looked around the room, his eyes resting on Odira, who was busy serving dinner. "I have come to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. I wish to take her as a wife." The room fell silent, the weight of the proposal hanging in the air. Mama Odira's face paled, her heart sinking at the thought of losing her only daughter to a man old enough to be her father. "Chief, this is a big decision," Papa Odira said cautiously. "May I have some time to discuss it with my family?" Chief Anioha nodded, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "Of course, take your time. But remember, this is an opportunity that will change your lives. I am willing to offer a substantial dowry in exchange for your daughter's hand." With that said, Chief Anioha took his leave, leaving the family to grapple with the gravity of his proposal. As the evening wore on, Mama Odira could no longer contain her distress. She approached her husband, her eyes filled with tears. "Please, my husband, don't let our daughter marry that man," she pleaded. "Odira is too young. She deserves to live her life, not to be tied down by someone like Chief Anioha." Papa Odira heaved a sigh. His heart torn between the love for his daughter and the pressing needs of his family. "I know, Mama Odira, but you heard what the chief said, Abi? This dowry could buy us a piece of land, enough to secure our future. But at what cost?" Mama Odira cried. "Our daughter's happiness, her freedom." Papa Odira looked away, unable to meet his wife's gaze. He knew that the decision he faced was not an easy one. The weight of responsibility bore down on him, forcing him to reconsider the unthinkable. That night, as Odira lay asleep in her room, her parents sat in silence. The following morning, as the sun rose over the village, Papa Odira made his decision. He called his wife aside, his voice heavy with resolve. "I have thought long and hard about this," he said quietly. "We have no choice, Mama Odira. I must agree to the chief's proposal. It's the only way to secure our future." Her heart broke at her husband's words, but she knew that his decision was final and she could not question it. With a heavy heart, she nodded, resigned to the path that lay ahead. Later that night, as Odira returned from fetching water at the river, her mother called her aside. "My daughter," Mama Odira began, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you about something very important." Odira looked at her mother, sensing the seriousness of the conversation. What is it, Mama?" Mama Odira took a deep breath, stealing for what she was about to say. "Chief Anioha has asked for your hand in marriage, and your father has agreed." Odira's eyes widened in shock, her heart pounding in her chest. "But Mama, I don't want to marry Chief Anioha, please. I don't love him. I don't even know him." Mama Odira reached out, taking her daughter's hand in hers. "I know, my dear, but your father believes that this is the best way to secure our future. The chief has offered a substantial dowry that could change our lives." Tears welled up in Odira's eyes as she realized that her faith was no longer her own. She felt trapped, powerless to change the course of her life. Mama Odira hugged her daughter, her heart aching with sorrow. She knew that the path ahead would be difficult, but she hoped and prayed that in time, Odira would find a way to make peace with her circumstances. The wedding was a quick and quiet one, and Odira stood in her room, dressed and ready to leave. Mama Odira entered the room, her eyes brimming with tears. She approached her daughter, wrapping her in a tight hug. "My beautiful daughter," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I wish I could change things for you, but I know you have the strength to face whatever comes your way." Odira nodded, trying to muster the courage to face her new life. She knew she had to be strong, not just for herself, but for her family. Later that evening, as the sun dipped into the horizon, Odira found herself alone in her new home. The reality of her situation settled in, and she felt a pang of fear at the thought of sharing a life with a man she barely knew and was old enough to be her father. Chief Anioha entered the room, his presence imposing and authoritative. He approached Odira, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are my wife now, Odira," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "I expect you to fulfill your duties and honor our union." Odira nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had to navigate this new life with caution and grace. As the days turned into weeks, Odira barely settled into her new role as Chief Anioha's wife. She learned how to manage the household, attending to the needs of her husband and his two sons, Eboh and Eboh. However, she was getting really depressed and began to isolate herself, drowning in confusion and sadness. Eboh, the elder son, who was a handsome young man of 24 years old, with a kind heart and a gentle demeanor, took an immediate interest in Odira. He offered her friendship and support as she adjusted to her new life. Despite the challenges she faced, Odira found solace in the company of the two brothers. They became her confidants and allies, providing her with a sense of belonging in a world that felt foreign and unfamiliar. As time went on, Odira and Eboh grew very close. They shared quiet moments together, talking about their hopes and dreams, and supporting each other through the difficulties of life in Chief Anozie's household. Eboh admired Odira's strength and resilience, and he found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't anticipated. He knew that their friendship was dangerous, and he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of connection to her. Odira too felt a growing bond with Eboh. But as their friendship blossomed, Odira knew she had to be very careful. She was a married woman, bound by duty to a man she didn't love. She couldn't afford to let her feelings for Eboh jeopardize her position. Yet, despite her best efforts to suppress her emotions, Odira found herself falling for Eboh. She longed for the freedom to love and be loved, a freedom that seemed forever to reach. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the skies in hues of orange and pink, Odira found herself alone with Eboh. The air was filled with the sound of crickets chirping and a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the trees. They sat together in the veranda, their gazes fixed on the distant horizon. The silence between them was very comfortable, a testament to the bond they shared. "Odira," Eboh said, breaking the silence, "I need to tell you something." Odira turned to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "What is it, Eboh?" He took a deep breath, his eyes filled with emotions. "I know this is wrong, but I can't help how I feel about you. I've fallen in love with you, Odira." Odira's heart skipped a beat at his words. She had known deep down that their friendship had grown into something more, but hearing Eboh confess his feelings brought a sense of clarity to her emotions. "I feel the same way, Eboh," she admitted. "But what can we do? I'm remarried to your father. This cannot happen." Eboh nodded. "I know, but I cannot deny my feelings. I care about you too much to let this go." They sat in silence, the weight of their forbidden love hanging in the air. They both knew the risk involved, but the pull between them was undeniable. One day, as the sun rose over the village, Chief Anozie prepared to leave for a business trip. He gathered his belongings, preparing to embark on a journey that would keep him away for several weeks. "My wife, I'll be leaving soon," Chief Anozie announced, his voice authoritative and commanding as usual. "Make sure everything in this house is in order while I'm gone." Odira nodded, her heart filled with relief at the thought of his absence. She knew that Chief Anozie's departure would provide her with an opportunity to explore her relationships with Eboh. As Chief Anozie left the compound, Odira felt a sense of liberation. She knew that her time with Eboh was limited, but she was determined to make the most out of the moments they shared. Over the next few weeks, they spent their days in each other's arms and company, their love blossoming in the absence of Chief Anozie's watchful eye. The day of Chief Anozie's return arrived, casting a shadow over the newfound happiness that Odira and Eboh had shared. As the sun rose over the village, the air was filled with a sense of anticipation and unease. Odira knew she had to resume her role as Chief Anozie's wife, suppressing her love for her stepson and returning to the life she had tried to escape. But as Chief Anozie entered the compound, Odira felt a sense of dread settle over her. She knew that their secret was in danger of being discovered, and the thought filled her with dread. Chief Anozie greeted his family with a mixture of satisfaction and suspicion. He had noticed the changes in Odira during his absence, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the days passed, Chief Anozie watched her closely, his eyes filled with suspicion. He noticed the way she interacted with Eboh, the stolen glances and whispered conversations. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their friendship than met the eye, and he was determined to uncover the truth. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Chief Anozie confronted Odira, his voice laced with accusation. "Odira, I've noticed the way you've been acting lately," he said, his eyes fixed on her. "You've changed, and I want to know why." Odira's heart raced as she met his gaze. "I don't know what you're talking about, Chief. I've been doing my best to fulfill my duties." Chief Anozie narrowed his eyes, his suspicion growing. "I've seen the way you look at Eboh. What are you hiding?" Odira's heart pounded in her chest as she said for a response, "No, Chief, I have nothing to hide." He studied her for a moment. "I really hope you're telling the truth. I will not tolerate any form of betrayal in my household." Later that night, as Odira lay awake in her bed, she felt a sense of foreboding settle over her. She knew that her time was running out, and the thoughts filled her with dread. She rose from her bed, her heart heavy with the weight of their secret. She knew she had to speak with Eboh to find a way to navigate the storm that was brewing. Odira made her way to Eboh's room, her heart pounding. She knocked softly on the door and opened. "Odira, what's wrong?" Eboh asked, his voice filled with concern. Odira entered the room. "Eboh, Chief Anozie is suspicious. He's watching us like a hawk, and I'm afraid that he'll soon find out the truth." Eboh took her hands in his eyes filled with determination. "We'll find a way, Odira, don't worry. I promise you, we'll be together." Odira nodded, her heart filled with a mixture of hope and fear. She knew that their love was a powerful force, but she also knew that it was a dangerous one. The days passed, and Odira and Eboh continued to navigate their very complicated relationship. They were careful to keep their love hidden from Chief Anozie, but the weight of their secret was a constant presence in their lives. One afternoon, as she sat alone in the garden, she felt a sense of unease settle over her. As she sat lost in thoughts, Eboh approached her, his voice and face filled with concern. "Odira, are you okay?" he asked. She forced a smile. "Yes, I'm fine, Eboh. I was just lost in thoughts." He looked at her with understanding. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here for you." Odira felt a sense of gratitude for Eboh's kindness, but she knew she couldn't tell him the truth. The next day, Chief Anozie called a meeting, sitting down Odira and Eboh. He was determined to uncover the truth that had eluded him for so long. Odira and Eboh sat together, their hearts heavy. Chief Anozie entered the room, his presence imposing and authoritative as usual. "I have called this meeting to address a matter of great importance," he began. "I have noticed the way you two have been acting around each other, and I demand to know the truth." Odira's heart raced as she met his gaze, struggling to maintain her composure. She knew that her secret was out and exposed. Eboh took a deep breath, his eyes filled with resolve. "Father, there's something I need to tell you. I love Odira, and we've been together for some time now." The room fell silent, the weight of Eboh's confession hanging in the air. Chief Anozie's face turned to a shade of crimson, his eyes blazing with anger and betrayal. "How dare you betray me like this?" he roared, his voice echoing through the room. Odira knew that their love had crossed the line, and the consequences would be severe. "I'm sorry, Chief. I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling. Chief Anioha narrowed his eyes. "You have betrayed me in the worst possible way. You both are no longer welcome in my house. Get out and never come back." With those words, Chief Anioha banished both of them from his home, casting them out into the world with nothing but the clothes on their back. When the villagers heard the story, no one could blame Odira for her actions, as she had been forced into a marriage she did not want to be in, unprepared and innocent. Her story was a lesson to parents, teaching them the dangers of early marriage.